Hey everybody, back. We are here with Taken, Episode 3, Offside. Bryan and the team face off an international terrorist. The threat, will they succeed? Tune in and find out.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
When you hear the sweet, sweet voice of Liam Neeson, you know what it's time for right now. Welcome, everyone.
Exactly.
I never want to interrupt him, but it is a little long, but we got to get going here. Welcome, everybody, to Taken at the AfterBuzz Studios here. I'm your host, Mike Kalinowski, once again breaking down every episode of the new TV series Taken, based on, of course, the Liam Neeson series of films starring Clive Standen. I am joined by my two lovely co-hosts here. He kind of bounces out on this side. You got this guy over here and then these beautiful ladies over here. First up, on the very end there, we got Brittany McGowan, who I'm just finding out now, and I don't know how I didn't know this. You were, first of all, you're Miss Nevada.
I was, yeah.
Miss Nevada.
USA,
now,
yeah.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I say you say you were, but isn't it kind of like the president? Once you're it, you're always it? You're always Miss Nevada.
I just compared you to the president.
I know,
Well,
like
that's how it is, ladies. That's how it is when you're with me.
I'll take it, but I don't know. I guess
I think you should. That's kind of like a title for life, I think. I mean,
kind of, kind of in the pageant world.
And now, in the pageant world, you were also a fifth runner-up in the Miss USA.
Yeah, totally. I've competed in Miss USA, and I guess fourth or fifth. I actually, which is odd.
We're gonna
that
go
I don't
fourth then.
know.
We're gonna go fourth.
Yeah, one of
fourth.
those.
Fourth should have won first.
I was just say that.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you,
and that is your background, and from the modeling world, right?
Yeah, from the modeling world, pageant world, and things like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, look at this.
Oh,
Look
it's
at
so nice.
I was gonna say, I got people. That's all the people on chat was like, hey, Mike, all my the fans from the DC world have kind of chimed in. They're like, hey, Mike, what's going on with that panel? How do I get on that with you? I was like, well, ladies, because the other panel, we've got the beautiful Roxy Stryer, but it's all three other dudes and the beautiful Roxy. But now it's just me with the two ladies, beautiful ladies. So it's like living the dream.
Yeah.
This is pretty. This is a great way to spend another hour. And now to my closest, I guess you'd be my closest left. With the lovely Brooke Lacey as well. So you've been here. You were on The Voice. You were Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with the Stars starts next week.
But now this is something that is awesome for me and everyone on the panel that knows that I'm DC. So I don't know how I'm supposed to say this without. I don't know if it's like a Disney thing where you're like a friend of, with the Disney actresses that's like, I'm a friend of Belle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So you are a friend of Wonder Woman. And if they follow you on Instagram,
I know her very well.
If you love
Wendy.
If you love Brooke here and you follow her on Instagram, you'll see how well of a friend she is of Wonder Woman, which I went and looked at, and I was like, the resemblance to Linda Carter is striking. Striking, and especially in those pictures. So we got Wonder Woman here, so that makes me a happy, or friend of Wonder Woman. I'm sorry, friend of Wonder Woman.
And we just found out any comic book fans out there, any
And there are
Wonder
tons
Woman
of them.
fans, any DC comic fans out there. Since I am good friends with the DC superhero girls, we just found out that they are going to be going to Arkansas in May for a film festival. So
fantastic.
apparently the girls are getting back together.
The gang's getting back together. Well, our gang's here, ready to get in talking about Taken Episode 3. Now, this episode.
A lot,
Again, a lot happens.
These,
I do the MacGyver AfterBuzz with Frank Moran, and those episodes always seem like. I talked to Frank. I was like, Frank, how do you write down the synopsis? As it's going to talk about point by point, because you don't write anything down. He's like, that's pretty straightforward. I'm like. It is pretty straightforward, that show. This show, I'm got like pages of notes.
Yes, we always
constantly.
I think we each have like 3 pages
we
of
do.
notes.
We do.
Cast
so,
list.
yeah, and again, guys, this is spoilers. If you are watching, we do talk about spoilers that happen in the episode. But let's get into it. So we got a little scene. Brian's kind of running, taking his time. And what I loved is they did a really good job of establishing Washington, D.C. So this is where the base is. I always wasn't sure. It shoots in Toronto, or at least in Canada.
Yeah.
So, but they do a really great job of making it feel like DC, which is kind of cool. So he's jogging. He's got a call from Asha. She's like, "Hey, can we meet up? I want to meet." And he's like, or talk. And he's like, "Well, you want to talk?" And she's like, "No, in person." I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah, okay.
Meet person.
Okay.
Anytime a girl like that says you want to meet,
right?
when a guy says yes,
Wait,
you don't make her wait.
Wait, she is skin goals. Can anyone agree?
Is that
with me?
a new
It is
skin goals?
Hashtag skin goals.
Hashtag skin goals. Let me write this down so I know.
Yeah, her complexion, her just everything.
I-
I'm like loving it.
I
She's
learned so
stunningly
much from
beautiful.
doing these shows, especially with ladies, because of all the. I've learned about shipping. I've learned about going ham on something. I show my age, but I learned so much from you girls. So.
Also,
So funny.
speaking of learning things, I'm not the most technologically savvy.
Okay.
So this is the first time I'm using the live chat.
Oh, we got the
and
chat
so we
here
have
as
the
well.
live chat up. I brought my laptop this week, so I'm here with you guys.
We're at the end of the show. Once we get through the recap, guys, we're going to talk a lot about. We're going to reach out to you guys in regards to this show. So stay tuned for that once we get through the recap. But so they meet up. Or they want to go, so he leaves. But then the next scene, we're introduced to kind of the two characters that kind of are the thrust of the episode.
Yes.
Zahad and Amir, his son Amir.
Yeah.
And if you guys are familiar, the actor that played Zahad is Patrick Sambori, I believe his last name is, and he was on The Flash for a long time. So if you're fans of The Flash, he played the police chief for that show for a long time. So it's nice to see him kind of on this show because he's a really good actor. And he's talking about, I want to learn, you got to learn how to take care of yourself because I might not always be around.
Yeah.
And they kind of, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
And they played up the fact that he is, I don't know if he was Iraqi or what was his nationality, but he definitely was, had some kind of not Israeli, but Iraqi kind of ethnicity about him. And they're playing that up in our, you see an actor like that as like, oh, is he going to be a terrorist because it played into that very well.
It almost put us in a position where I don't want to say judged.
No.
We totally did.
But when they cast for that role, they were not looking for a white guy. They were not looking for a black guy. They were looking for his ethnicity because it plays into this
in the story.
And the cool thing, because we'll get to it, it played against stereotype, and it was really cool.
It did, which
but
I love.
It worked with us. Yeah,
I love.
We see bits and pieces in the preview for the episode. I'm like, I think his son gets kidnapped and stuff. But then the way this started, I was like, oh. He's kind of a stock terrorist. And for me personally, I was kind of like, this actor, he probably gets called in for a lot of these roles because of his background. And I would think, was like, an actor of that caliber, why doesn't he just start turning it down? Because that group is so sick of, that's all we're seen as.
Yeah.
But it obviously wasn't, because it was a great role for him.
And I loved it.
But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
So then we meet up. The FBI kind of had this guy on surveillance.
Yes.
Which, it's tough.
Well, you know what? I think the way they explained it was because his brother or
right,
cousin,
he was on the watch list. We talked about watch list.
Which is unfortunate that.
But what I love about the show now is it's not afraid to shy from issues. That's a big thing right now with the American citizens under surveillance.
Yeah.
I'm a white male in America. I'm not going to have to deal with this ever. So it's interesting, because I don't think about that. But now I see it's like, that's what people deal with every day. It's kind of it sucks. And I'm glad that the show's not shying away from it, because it's our world that we live in. This show is kind of very reality based. But we find he disappeared. The surveillance cameras went down, so that's why the FBI that was watching this were alerted. And that's what they put out the call to our team, saying, hey, this went down. So then that brought the group together. And again, we find out that our team, the ONDI is what they're called. I'll have to find out. I think it's let me see, Office of National Defense and Intelligence. That's their special group that they are. So they're not FBI, they're not CIA, but the FBI alerted them. So that's why we brought our team together. So they kind of go over the scenario of what the situation was.
Right.
With the FBI kind of watching him. We find out the history, like his brother was involved in a bombing and brought down an embassy over in Iraq.
And then that, as like I said, it was kind of sad with the whole judgment in a way.
Right.
We were like, oh no, even with that discussion that they had with his son, it's like, well, where are you going? And so they just really let us kind of, I guess, fall into the...
Because we intercut with a really quick scene about Asha and Bryan went to, which was kind of weird. But, they had to put that scene in there.
Yeah.
And she is very concerned, why does Bryan have the footage of Mejia?
Which who wouldn't be?
Right.
That's so weird.
Yeah, especially considering her relationship with Callie, and then obviously...
And she's a lawyer, so that's... I didn't think about that.
I'm still wondering, though, because they said she said that she was an environmental attorney, or lawyer. I'm still clinging on to that of like, okay, when is that going to come into play? Because environmental is so specific.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, I think it almost would have been a stronger choice if she was a defense attorney, where it's like, she'd be worried about a human's rights. Like, even though he's a criminal, he has rights, and there are lawyers that do that. I mean, why is he being held in this black site that no one knows about?
And why do you have?
How are you treating him?
Yeah.
But I think that would have been a better drama between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because she's also kind of
Yeah.
like, that's the man that killed my best friend.
Exactly.
But she's the lawyer, so we'll see about the interview. Thanks for bringing that back up because I forgot that is her specialty.
Yeah.
And then somebody did point out you asked about the ONDI. It is the Office of Director of National Intelligence.
ODNI, the ODNI.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan Myers.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
That's why the chat is awesome.
Everything you ever need to know.
I love it.
Yeah.
So then we come back to now the city is put on a terrorist alert. And that was when they showed video of Zahad with the vest on, and for a second you're kind of watching it, and it looked like he was filming himself.
Yes, it did look like that.
You're like, oh, is he? Oh, I guess. All right, we're playing into the stereotype, and that's what they hired the actor for, and here we go.
And because they said he was an electrical engineer,
exactly,
that worked on cars, and so
yeah.
Now
we find out his history. We find out that he bought guns,
and he genuinely does work on cars, and like it just does go to show you.
Yeah. So
in today's day and age.
Right. So there definitely is a threat for that. Brian tells Asha he's got to go. There's a terrorist threat in the city. Don't go on a bus. Don't leave. He's like, just, you know what? Stay here. Stay here. I've got to take care of this. So I was like, okay. So that's kind of. So the next scene, we've got Brian and Christina. They are going to Zahad's family's house, and of course the scene that I'm sure plays out daily in America. With United States government agents coming to question a man of nationality that is on a terrorist watch list.
Yeah.
And this man was under a watch, and they're used to it. They're used to dealing with it. You see, the son is kind of like, here's a white man in my house that's questioning my mom. That happens all the time. So he kind of takes off. Brian, and then they show him the guns, and the guns were both there.
Yeah.
So then that's not. And she's like, he's never fired them. He doesn't want to fire them, but we have to protect ourselves. Which every right of an American citizen is to own a weapon.
They also, I feel like, started mentioning the God a lot. I feel like, and that was the first scene that they mentioned it, where Brian ended up finishing her sentence like, "Oh, he's a man of," and he said God, and they actually brought that back even towards the end, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk more about that once we get to that point. But I feel like they did mention that a lot as well.
Yeah, it was interesting the parallels.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was
we'll continue.
Yeah. So then the son, they notice he's taking off. He takes off running. He goes into his tree and pulls out. I think it was a phone, right? It looked like some kind of.
Yeah,
was that the phone?
Oh, I thought he grabbed a gun.
No, it might have been the gun because it was
grabbed,
weird.
I wrote down that he grabbed a gun in the tree.
Right, it was in the tree trunk.
And then he gave it to.
Because it did look a little big for a phone.
Well, and then I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but he ran and then he went into that.
It was like a mosque.
Community, mosque, and he gave it to the older guy, like. Here, I don't want to. Which, if me thinking it was a gun, I was thinking, oh wow, like it still shows his innocence that he gave the gun. Like I don't know how to use. I don't want to use it.
That was interesting. Again, there's something I have to go back and watch. But
both guns, I only saw one
in the
from
box.
Ivan. Yeah, in the box.
See?
Yeah.
Okay.
But why did Brian at the time not go? Well, where's the other one?
Yeah,
that's why I don't think I thought gun. I just thought I was like, oh, maybe the shadows in the box I couldn't see.
Maybe the second gun was the one that the boy put in the tree.
Right. I'll have to go back and watch, but if you guys are out there right now, let us know.
Let us know what you guys.
But the weird thing was, so Brian comes into the room, and then suddenly he's surrounded by Muslim men around him.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of like, who are you? Why are you reticence man? And he's like, no, I need him. Yeah. And it was interesting because at this point, Brian doesn't flash ID because he can't really. They're not they're not FBI, CIA, where that's where you flash and this gets out. They don't have really kind of IDs to show. And every time they've shown ID in the show before, we've seen them use FBI because they're lying. And they have those fake. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's cool to kind of see that consistent. But then again, those guys get a little too close to Brian.
And speaking, I love that he's, like you're saying, referencing God and finishing his and speaking the language.
Right.
Like it definitely shows that he's.
We saw flashbacks a little bit later in the episode, but he has been in this area, familiar with the cultures. He knows the culture. He speaks the language. Yeah. So he's not just some dumb American. He knows. And
even the moment with Amir when he was said, I hate America and I hate him, was yelling. There was.
So that's in the scene, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it just it brought him back to showing us that this is a familiar
Brian, when he was on a mission,
yeah, exactly.
and there were Muslim children yelling, "I hate Americans."
And you could see almost like the hurt in a way in his eyes when the boy said that. And so I thought that was really interesting too, and
Right. So it's like we find. But then at this point, that's why I don't know if it was a gun or a phone, because we never really got it from him. You know, he never took it and looked at it. It was never. The scene just kind of ended, and then I should go back. Then they found the video of the dad, how he was taken. Now, did you girls pick up on this? Because it seemed kind of weird. We had the scene with the son and Bryan in there, and he gets whatever it was, and then it cuts to, hey, we have footage on the street, and we find out that Zahad was actually taken and not.
Yeah.
That's the first look of, oh, he didn't run away on his off.
Yeah.
He's taken. What's going on now? We see him being pulled in a car. They see a rental plate. They're able to zoom in and kind of get that has the rental little QRL, whatever those things are, scanners on there, and they find it's a rental car. And so they're able to track that down.
Yes.
And then kind of we do a little cutaway to Christina's visiting her doctor.
Yes.
Beginning of the episode, she was in the meeting. She was in the meeting, and she kind of had like my head, and they go, "You all right?" She's like, "I'm fine."
Yeah,
but now she's sitting in a doctor's office.
Yeah.
Now, did you girls pick up on this?
I did.
I wrote it down. The neck.
She had a cut here,
Yeah, a cut.
and her hands were wrapped.
But it's just from, I mean...
Do you think it was from last episode?
For sure, which I thought was awesome.
Then I think that's great.
The only other show, well, I'm sure there's more, but there was another show that I noticed, Breaking Bad would do that, where if, they did things before, they would have remnants of that from, the previous episode.
Continuity.
And I loved that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool
I
that her hands
was.
were
Yeah, the
wrapped.
neck, I was like... But that's great that it's continuity from the last episode.
Yeah.
Again, we'll see why, also because it plays in later.
Exactly.
So we find out she has a mass in her brain size of a grape. And the doctor kind of played it off. She's like, a lot of people got grapes in their head.
Yeah,
that live forever. It's like, and she said how there was ridges around the mass, so that's a sign that it's benign. But they don't. They say we're going to do. I think they mentioned biopsy.
Right.
And Christina, but the big I think point of this was, hey, on your chart, we don't have a contact.
Emergency contact.
Which is kind of cool because it's little bits like that. I think the writers are smart because we get a sense of how lonely she is.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't have anyone.
And we're just diving deeper into who she is, her character, and understanding.
And another moment I feel like, and this is later in the episode, but another moment I noticed that was whenever Gilroy had her in the car, and I don't want to jump to conclusions, but he was saying like, do you believe in a God? You mustn't like you seem like yourself so self-driven and like believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And you can tell that really hits her,
Totally.
Well,
not to jump to conclusions.
No, it's great. No, that is a perfect segue
Yeah.
because the next scene right after the doctor is this man that we don't know. It is at the Arlington Cemetery, which is the cemetery for war heroes, for people that die in battle. This is the Arlington National Cemetery, and this man is there. We don't see the name on the. It was kind of like glossed over.
Jason Gilroy.
Jason Gilroy.
Yeah.
So, but we don't know who he is. Relations to this man, and this weird man with. He was American, but he had this giant scar. We're like, where is this guy coming into this?
Yeah, exactly.
But then we find out that it is a Special Agent Gilroy. The car was rented to this man, and so now this was interesting. So we go to a supermax prison real quick, and there was a serial killer in this prison. So I have this written down, and I don't think I had it written down wrong. So they picked up Gilroy, right? Because they found out that this
That
was
he was
rented
the
to him,
one.
that he was the
Yeah.
one that kidnapped him because of the car rental. So they're able to pick him up. It was in that parking lot. It was a real quick scene.
Right.
They were able to get him, and then we cut to a supermax prison. Now this gets weird. Okay, so they brought the guy. They kidnapped Gilroy, or they grab him because they found him through the rental car. So the team's got him. They're trying to question him. What's going on? And he's like, I'm not going to talk. We found out that this man is an FBI special agent that is an incredible profiler. So that's his job, and he was able to capture one of the world's worst serial killers. He was able to get this guy
Who tried to cut his
face off.
Oh.
And we find out that they're like, why is this guy? Why is he going? Why would he kidnap someone? He's one of our top people. Like, what is his deal? It's kind of like he's well known among the community, the intelligence community of this great guy. Why is he doing this? But they bring him to this thing, and he's like, you know what? I've had my face cut off by a serial killer. I'm not going to talk.
What can you guys do? That was the worst.
Right, yeah, what are you going to do?
Oh my gosh.
So
I didn't even see this coming. I thought this was a little much.
Yeah, because I'm usually like...
I was like, dang.
I'm like, why are they at a supermax prison? Why are they out on their boat? And I guess they're just questioning this guy. And again, these guys, they're a black ops team. They don't really answer to anyone but the top people.
And they clearly don't abide by any rules.
And they play by their own rules.
Oh, they hit him where it hurts.
Let's flash back to the first
Oh my
episode where they
gosh.
had those two hitmen captured, and they basically threatened to put the suicide pill down their mouth.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, they're a little rough, little bad cop routine.
This was messed up.
This is effed up cop and effed up cop. I was like,
needs therapy after this. They brought back some stuff.
So
some
the reason we find out,
I was some type of way.
the reason we're at this Supermax is this is where it houses the serial killer that he caught. So he comes out with this Hannibal Lecter, like not even the face mask, but like this plastic thing around his head. He's like in a lazy boy recliner, and they're wheeling him in.
And I was genuinely like, what? I thought that maybe he couldn't, when it was all covered, I was confused. Like, can he not speak? Is he had like some kind of
people? Like, what is happening?
I think our brains, because we're so used to seeing Hannibal Lecter in a similar thing, we go like, holy, this guy's terrible.
Right?
So they wheel him in, and instantly Gilroy's shitting himself. He's like,
what is happening?
And we're all kind of like, what is going on here?
Like, this is not okay.
And Brian's just sitting there, and you see him tensing up. He's just like, what? And you saw that one look, and he kind of gives her a side glance. Christina's like, what?
And I think that was huge also to show more. I feel like a lot of this episode was just letting us see more of her. Her character and how. I mean, also, too, they were on a time limit. Maybe they wouldn't have gone to those lengths right away. But I think at this point, there's possible, multiple people going to get killed or a terrorist threat or whatever they think at this point.
But at this point, we don't. I mean, they hadn't said the hour time limit yet, so we don't know that. We know he's kidnapped. We know he's kidnapped a man. That there's an imminent terrorist threat. But
there's something going on.
There's a terrorist. We know he has got a bomb vest.
Right.
But we don't know the very specifics. So to me, what they do is they put the serial killer in there. Yeah. They unlock him. And Gilroy is chained to the table still. Yes. He's got cuffs on. Mm-hmm. And they leave. And here's this guy getting up. Didn't he lick his finger, lick his face?
Ivan Soto just said, it was seriously disgusting when he licked his finger.
Yeah.
I
cringed. I was like, wait, where are you guys going?
He didn't need to say anything.
At this point, I'm kind of like, did the stakes warrant this?
Yeah.
It's not like we had an hour, or the president's being targeted. There's a suicide bomb in Washington, D.C. The president's in town visiting, a school. It's in this area. We got 20 minutes to find this out. No,
20 minutes.
We had a little time. I think this was.
This could have been step
ballistic.
5.
Yes.
They went like all the way. But it worked. It worked.
It's the guy's sweating. He's like, all right.
He's like, all right.
And then they're like, Brian, go. And so Brian goes in there. I'm like,
takes him down. Oh my god.
Poor Brian. Like, I wouldn't want to go in there.
No.
I would have to go in.
Thankfully, they stopped it before we saw something that we had to go to
But
therapy for.
Bottom line, you see, these people will do anything to get what they need to protect the United States. And I don't know the intricacies of the United States intelligence community, but there is a backlash against torture and stuff like that. Again, that all is recently, but during 9/11 and after that happened, and everything our government would do. We find out a lot of times that stuff does not work, that's in the real world. But here, you see this organization. So it also kind of, for me, I'm kind of like, these are the good guys.
Yeah.
And they're kind of acting like the bad guys. And I'm kind of like, I'm lucky that there's a Brian there that's not cool. He's not really on board with this.
Because it showed him, that look.
He gave her a look, and she's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, I like that. Brian needs to be our good guy. But it also, it goes to show, and again, you always have to remember with the show, we're building to Liam Neeson's character.
We are.
And he tortures the hell out of people. He doesn't give a shit. He that one guy in his scene, he shoots the guy's wife at the dinner table.
Totally.
He doesn't care. So we see the building of this man.
Where he's getting it from.
So that's the point of the show. So I can't fault him.
Maybe they also went so hardcore right away because they were saying that he was such a master profiler, and maybe they had to just.
They knew
it would
the
have
little
to be to
step
the
1 through
extreme.
5 was not going to work.
No, you had to go to. I mean.
They went to 10.
They went to 10.
Real quick.
So we find out. Christina goes to the committee, and this was kind of cool. It was a 3-person committee. And now we kind of find out those are the people that she answers to. The people, and she's, hey, there is an active terrorist threat. And they're like, Gilroy, why would he do this? He's one of our top people. And she, Gilroy is framing Zahad to kind of restart the American war against with Muslims. Like, to use them, hey, this Muslim's going to kill Americans. We need to go back to war. We're not safe. Yeah. And it was kind of interesting. That's a very modern day, real world scenario where it's like the American people, we don't find out yet why he has such this disdain for Muslims and whatnot. But it was, we do get to the point. But so our agent, we find an American agent, is using this political hotbed to get a war kind of jump started. And that is the goal behind this. So then they were able to, in the meeting, they get a phone call. We find out that Gilroy's kind of people that have Zahad, they say, hey, go to this location. And they find out it's a coffee shop. The team comes in, kind of clears the coffee shop out. They go into the bathroom, and there is Zahad, the suicide vest on. So at this point, it gets kind of tense. And then a timer starts, and they said, okay, you give us Gilroy, or the bomb goes off in 1 hour.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where it really kind of kicked into high gear, because a lot of things happened. We got the time started, they're all kind of on their watches with 60 minutes. Now we've got a counting clock. So now this might have been the point where they bring serial killer in to get some information. But
Bring him back.
they jumped the gun.
Bring him back. Oh my
but
God,
then they say Christina Hart's going to go and get Gilroy to bring him to the spot.
Right.
They need a sniper team, 2-man sniper team. And the one guy, so now we've got a list. So they were saying there that John was sitting there going, all right, you know, Mills, you're out. You're going.
Yeah,
He's
you're
like,
going.
no, I'm the new guy. I'm expendable. I'm not leaving him.
Yeah.
So then they leave him. Bryan stays with Zahad.
And he's the only one, because remember there was only supposed to be 2, and he's like, no, you're coming with us too. So they just left him.
Because they wanted John, played by Guy Charles, made a call that he was going to put 2 sniper teams instead of just one sniper team with Christina for the exchange. So Bryan's by himself at this point with Zahad, and we find out that he's going to try and get that vest off. And that was an interesting moment. But did you see it between the two of them? There's an American man, you know, against a Muslim man, and it was just, but it's kind of like.
But he mentioned, you know, you are, you know, an American, like.
Right.
So I feel like.
But after, because Zahad was like, there's a saying in my country, a brave American is a stupid American.
Yeah.
And that's when he followed with saying that, like, you are an American. And that was a.
It was a cool moment.
It was a cool moment.
So we do find out at this point that Zahad's just kind of, he's a pawn. He's being used, you know, as
and he
heritage.
He's a good man, and he does care about his son. And his biggest concern was, please tell my son the truth about this. So he understands.
Yeah, and it was kind of that moment. Bryan's like, well, you didn't say this, but he's like, you're not going to die.
You're not.
Well, and then did you notice back to the whole religious reference? He was like, I know you're not going to.
Yeah, because they mentioned there was a Quran.
The Quran forbids suicide.
Right.
You know.
So again,
which brings in the familiarity, and he knows. And, and which is probably why he wanted to be left alone with this, because he knew that he would be able to diffuse the situation probably better than any of them.
But we also do find out that the bad guys have this area under surveillance. So they'll say, don't move him. We'll know. Don't try and disarm it. Don't try and bring a bomb squad in. We will know.
Yeah.
So the team then rushes off with Christina to do the drop. But Bryan now realizes he's got to get this guy out of cell phone range, because it's all wired with cell phones. So they kind of go through this area. They try to get out of the building. They're climbing through the air ducts.
Right.
They're able to get towards the basement. And the team back at the base are kind of like, okay, you know, how, you know, they're saying about the timing and the area you're in, and go down to this area because the building in this area.
Yeah, exactly.
So as they keep going, they kind of start losing cell phone range, but it comes back up at certain points.
And they're kind of
like
bonding
normal.
in a way. And he kind of takes Bryan starts talking to him about, you know, I never forgot this man who did this to me. You know, he creates like a little bit of a bond with him, I feel.
Right.
Well, yeah, because speaking of that moment, did you guys catch whenever he said Bryan's dad was saved?
Yeah.
What had gone missing for 6 days, and then the Air Force saved him. So that kind of gives you that backstory of like, oh, is this a family legacy?
Yeah.
Like, you're not the first one at this rodeo. You know?
Exactly.
So while Bryan is trying to get Zahad safely, we've got Gilroy is in the car with Hart. They're driving him to the drop, and this is where we find out why he's doing this. Because it's interesting, he's profiling her, and that was a really cool scene, because he's using what he does to realize, he's like, why are you doing this? You know, this and that. There's something.
Yeah.
And he's able to deduce that something is wrong with her, and her, you know, she's ill or sick or something. Like, he's able to kind of use his skills as a profiler to find out, but she turns it on him, and she's like, you're doing it just because your son died. Would he be proud of his father for doing this?
Exactly.
So that's what this was. So this man is trying to, Muslim man had killed his son. He is now trying to use a Muslim man to restart the war against with Muslim people as the focal point. You know, it's a father whose son was killed.
I think that
he's just so caught up in the world that it is.
That moment, I feel like, also showed a lot of her strength as well, because I feel like, you know, when he did basically say, I mean, I don't know if they were watching her, but they knew about what was going on with her doctor, and so for him to, that would throw me off a little bit. I reacted to it when I heard, I'm like, oh, they're what, like, and she didn't even flinch and went right back, right back where it would hurt. And But I feel like, in a way, it also showed, and I don't want to jump ahead too much, but you know, they had a little humanity in there as well, because she wasn't. I feel like she's trying to put up a front all the time, maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean, women in general, in, you know, male-dominated,
especially in this field that she's in.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because he did try to play on that.
Yes,
he tried to play on that whole women card, which.
Yeah, she was like, no.
Yeah. Right,
you know,
yeah, it was a very nice scene. So then we have the 2 sniper teams set up for the drops there. We got Dave and John, and then Rem and Scott were all set up. So they had the 2 drops set up, or 2 sniper teams set up. Right. They're ready. Then they had 2 just random people show up, the bad guys. I mean, again, at this point they're kind of faceless, but we know they're working for Gilroy. But there's someone else that's pulling the strings. Right. It's not just these 2 yahoos with the masks on.
No.
Gilroy's captured. Someone had put the bomb, placed him there, so there is a definitely undercurrent. But Bryan is able to find an underwater area, and they jump into the water because the bomb's ticking down. Because remember, the self-range is going up and down, then the timer cut and it jumped ahead.
Well, that was the thing, because I think it was, in the midst of all this, it was like 9 minutes and 40-something seconds, and I was already like,
no, me too.
And the 2 guys in the ski masks were like, you give them to us, we'll disarm the bomb. And Christina's like, nope. You disarm the bomb, and I'm giving them to you.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's cutting down, and Bryan, and then our team back at the base, we had Riley and Ferran sitting there going, you know, we got it. You know, Bryan got it covered. We're good.
Right.
So Bryan jumps in, grabs him, and the cool thing was he didn't just throw him in. That's what I thought he'd do. I thought he was going to drop him in there, but he grabbed him and dropped him. So it's like,
him.
And we forgot to mention this, but this is kind of cool. When the guys were leaving, I think it was Scott that said it to Bryan. He goes, hey, just remember the 90-second rule.
Yeah.
And Farad doesn't really take note of it, but you seem kind of like 90-second rule, and Bryan doesn't address it.
Yeah.
You find out that when a bomb is activated, you've got 90 seconds to get clear.
Right.
Which was kind of cool. So at this point, Fahad's like, I know what the 90 seconds is, and he's like, it doesn't matter. But then he grabs him and jumps in with the water with him. So again, that was so cool, because he could have just dropped him.
Totally.
But he's the hero, and it was like the cool moment. He wasn't going to leave him.
Yeah.
And he pulls him up, and the thing was shorted out. So shorted out the bomb. Christina gets the call, hey, it worked. Snipers take out the 2 guys. They drop them.
Right. And it was in a matter of 3 seconds to spare.
Yeah.
3 seconds.
Well, come on.
Like,
when you got a countdown clock in anything, it's not stopping at 2 minutes.
Oh my god.
No, I know, but like, give me at least 10 seconds.
I know.
Right.
I was like, oh my god, is this gonna? I mean, we knew he was at least, you know, Bryan would make it, but I'm just like sitting there, just like, oh my god, like what?
And I think it does go to show every week. I feel like we always talk about just his level of calm and in the midst of all the chaos and 3 seconds and we're over here, like, you know, shaking in our boots, and he doesn't have a care in the world.
Yeah,
so
it's like calm and
so with everything pretty much diffused, we find out that the head of this conspiracy is Bert Keegi, old bow tie wearing.
Yeah.
And he was part of the council, those 3 at the beginning.
Yeah.
And now that we know that, so they find out that this is the man that is behind this, and it's you know, and again goes back to the real world scenario of there are men in government that feel we should always be at war. They think, you know, there's a huge group of our population that believes in defense spending and believe that, you know, we should be as strong as we can be. So this is very ripped from the headlines. Find out it's Bert Keegi, and they set a meet with him. They're going to talk about this. And this was kind of cool because we've got a little scene with Chris, and this was weird. Remember, we were all 3 of us were kind of like with Chris. Christina goes to Bryan's like, hey, we have this house in the corner here. Here's the key. Let me know if you can't do it. I'm going to give you the signal. I'm going to pull off my ring. That's the signal. Can you do this? And he's like, and it's kind of hesitant, but we were all kind of like, what are they doing? We were like, in my head, I thought it was a safe house. Like they were going to bring that guy there to torture him or something like that, or kind of kidnap him to kind of, but no, so they kind of do this meet out in the open. He shows up, and it's kind of funny because, you know, they had this, she's like, you felt like he was not going in blind. You kind of knew like he's head of up with the Department of Defense. This guy has done these before. He probably thinks he's got the one up on her. And we've got Bryan with a sniper rifle kind of covering her back, and we just find out that he's like, I know what you're doing, you know, I know you're probably having watched, and Christina now kind of gets suspicious because she looks around and we see a couple people on different benches. It's like, who's watching who?
Yeah, who's watching who?
And
exactly.
she's like,
the man with the donut.
Not him. Definitely not him, though.
And then it was like, you know, you do what you want. You know, you can try and stop us, but we will always do this. You know, it's this, and so we find out that there's this man in the upper government that believes we always should be at war. He doesn't want peace, and he feels America is America, and you know, they'll do whatever. So we see her take the ring off, and Bryan kills him. And at first, I thought it was a tranquilizer dart, because as I talked about a little bit, anytime in these movies when someone gets shot with a tranquilizer dart, the bullet goes in, and there's a little plume of feathers at the end, and it kind of looked like it, but I was like, oh no, that's blood. He's dead.
He's dead.
And then Donut Man.
Donut Man.
Yes.
I don't know how to address this because we've seen this in all the movies. In the movie Taken, you know, Brian's meeting the Paris head of the Paris police force wants to meet with Brian, and they're all different agents kind of in this square. The Bourne films are synonymous for doing this. They have tons of agents, you know, with hats reading newspapers, and they kind of pull up, and they're all, though, they're agents, and you feel like, yes, that's a man who can take out Jason Bourne if he needs to.
Yes.
This was a large man eating a donut.
Really enjoying that donut.
Yeah,
Really enjoying
and he got up to pull that gun out.
Totally.
And Brian dropped him, but I'm like, I don't know if casting on the day was like, we need an extra. Who can we use that this guy's got no lines?
He's got no lines.
But on the other hand, I would never, as if I'm Christina Hart, going, yeah, that's an agent right there. I know that.
Why
Okay,
would he be sitting across? Yeah, and the element of surprise. I mean, who would think?
But his reaction time was a little slow. Brian got him pretty fast.
Now I want to get Donut Man on the show, you guys.
Let's get Donut Man because good for him. But I mean, he's dead.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting choice. I don't know if they just went with what we're thinking. Like, you would never suspect this guy's an agent.
Yeah.
Or, well, I don't know, because would this guy, this Bert Keegi, have access to really trained men? Or is this group of people that are kind of this subversive group in the government, like, that are just on
Not
his side? It's like, who can I get with me? All right, John, you're coming with me.
Yeah.
Get a gun, John, you're coming with me, Donut Man.
Grab your gun, grab your donut.
Yeah, just sit there. It's like, and he's like, dude, I don't know surveillance. It's like, just pretend like eat, get a newspaper, pretend like you're eating, and just watch my back.
Maybe that would explain.
But it was weird. It was a weird.
That's what I mean. Like, maybe it just shows that it's not as big. Maybe it was just him and a couple people he could trust, and he couldn't get the strongest.
I'm
or whatever.
very curious about that.
Yeah.
But Brian does kill them, and that was it. They took care of that problem, which is that's. I mean, and then she just got up and walked away.
I think
so there's dead men there, and this guy's high up in that organization. I mean, is she gonna have to answer for that? Like,
exactly.
But she said, now. Maybe I misinterpreted this, but then she referenced later on. Now it's so-and-so's problem. Now, like...
Oh, it's FBI, I think she said.
Yeah, like now it's...
Because it's on American soil. The CIA covers international, FBI is domestic. So it is an FBI problem if there's a murder like that. If some guy high in the government, that's FBI.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe they just will keep running into dead ends. Because they are protected. This episode, if anything, showed that this team, they don't have to answer to anyone except the Secretary of Defense, this high up couple people.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. And then it throws us back to a little bit of scene with Asha and Brian, because she's still there all day. He comes back.
I know, right? Exactly.
Sexy time.
Right?
They're doing a slow build to that. I appreciate that.
I actually do like that they're doing the slow build too. I'm glad that it wasn't just like
right.
Because
they showed those scenes of them in bed together.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this on the teasers for next episodes. Whenever they do that, there's one episode. It's not till the next, which is our 4th episode, which they showed after the first one. Because the guy who's like, I'm gonna get your son back. That's not till next episode. So they've shot a lot, which is great. And they kept doling this out a little bit.
Yeah.
But we get the scene, and we find out that, you know, she's again concerned for him, but she wants to help him. She wants him to, I think, help him deal with his sister's death, because Brian is still affected by this thing. Because there's a couple times she said she was killed. He's like, no, she was murdered. So it is fresh with him, and he's not letting it go away, which is again a driving force in Brian's life, and I think that's will drive him forever. But then she's like, well, I see you like to cook. He's like, I do.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you want to cook now? And he's like,
oh,
let's get steaming in the kitchen.
Okay.
Which is nice. I mean, I like them together.
I know, we looked at each other and we saw that we're like, oh, they're gonna cook. Okay.
We know what that means.
We know what that means.
I
know, right?
It's
so
nice.
Funny.
It's nice, and it's not thrown in your face. And I think they're going to build that over the season, because she's a series regular. She's just not a guest star that pops up, which is great.
I agree.
And then we had a scene. Christina's in a car, which is she's kind of like contemplative. We're not sure.
Yeah.
And we find out she's still friends with and still talking to Harry, who was the husband of Claire from the previous episode, which is great. This episode
got murdered.
This show is very compartmentalized. You can just watch one, but it is doing a through line, and I love that.
I like that
too.
Of
a serialized like that. So we find out that she's come to him, and they kind of have common ground. It's kind of like Asha and Brian. It's almost parallel,
right?
Because they both were friends, and now they're kind of finding this. But this was not really as romantic, and this I would have a problem with. If there was a romance between these two, I would have a problem with this.
But do you not think? Okay, that smile. Maybe.
Well, let's get to the reason she's there. She's there because she's like, "Hey, will you be my emergency contact?" And for me, that's a big thing because I remember that when I moved to Los Angeles with my girlfriend at the time, and I was filling out job applications, and I needed an emergency contact, and I just said, "She's my emergency contact. It's not my parents, it's you." And for me, that was a big thing.
It is a big thing.
But that hit me. I was kind of like, that's a big step, especially for someone like her that's so closed off. To go to this man, hey, will you be my contact?
I think it showed her vulnerability and. Wait, is
there
there something?
No, what's going on?
Comments. Somebody was saying they don't know if
Asha can be trusted.
was saying they don't know if Asha can be trusted, which I think
I mentioned that in the first episode.
And then Ivan, hold on, let's see. Oh yeah, Ivan says the dude's wife just died, and he's already hitting on her.
See, I picked up on that.
I'm with him. I don't want that to happen because that's shady. That is shady.
I don't think it's something that's like been. I mean, I hope it's not something that's already been done. But I think there is a connection. I don't know. There's something
I'll
more
say this.
there.
I recently just watched again 13 Hours, the Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. And that actor is the husband, Harry. He was in that movie. Because I'm like...
okay.
Because in the movie, I'm watching him, I'm like, I gotta look this guy's up. And I was like, oh, he's on Taken. I was like, who's he in Taken? And he's like, oh, he's Harry. He's like, oh. So an actor of that caliber, because he's very talented, he's got a great resume, you don't just put him in for a one-off, two-episode recurring role. Yeah. He's gonna be a part. This guy's gonna be on the show for more.
They're getting together.
I don't know. Asha and Bryan, I ship them using young girls' terms. I ship Asha and Bryan. I do not ship.
I don't even know what ship means.
I don't know what that means either.
Get out of here!
I don't know. Do people?
What?
I don't get. Like,
you
I
guys
ship.
Maybe
when
it's not a new term.
What is that? Do you
Come
guys
on.
know
Are
what
you
that
going
means?
steady?
It's you. It's like a couple, like on a show, and you want to ship them. I'm not explaining it very
Two
good.
ships.
They ship them together. You ship them, and they form like kind of like they take their names and they mix the words up. They like.
Oh, like celebrity names.
You mean
like
Brangelina.
Like Brangelina, like Felicity on Arrow. Brasha, the Bryan and Sasha, Brasha.
Brasha.
Yeah. Guys, you gotta help me out here. Help me out.
Harry, I don't know.
But I ship Bryan and Asha, Brasha. I do not ship Harry and Claire.
I don't think
Harry
that would be cool. It should be Harry and
Christina.
Relationship.
That's
ship them.
Yes, you ship them.
Got it.
Oh, there we go.
Got it. Relationship.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
But I learned that being on these shows.
See, you learn
and I thought you younger ladies would know that.
I mean, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I feel stupid.
No, now we feel stupid.
But that does bring us to the end of the episode. We have a really nice little wrap-up scene with Bryan and Zahad and his son. Yes. And, of course, Bryan's son, Zahad's son, the whole show hated Bryan. And there's a scene at the end where he's kind of playing soccer with him. And it was kind of cool. It was a nice... American man, Muslim man, son, it just kind of brought it together. I love that. It was a nice little, and they didn't bat it on the head like, hey, you're different than I, but we're the same. They didn't need that. The writing in the show is so smart. Bad writing always sticks out. And the show's dense, and it's a lot to follow.
Yeah.
Because there's so many characters but
that's what I love.
But it doesn't spoon feed you, and I cannot stand shows that spoon feed. I hate it. I would rather go back and watch the show 2 or 3 times. Then have it be done, and I could be doing stuff around my house, but I got the whole full episode.
Right.
I hate that.
Yeah, I love that with movies, and it's great to see that transition into TV shows.
Yes.
It's a puzzle piece, and you have to get it together. So.
Yep. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, I really liked that ending part too because they, like you said, it wasn't like too much. But I think it brought up like a pretty good point on just race in general. How. Depending on what's going on in your experiences of what you're seeing, sometimes all it takes is just one personal connection with that other race that could change even the way the acceptance as a whole. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool too that they showed that.
Yeah, and so that kind of brings up the wrap up. So guys, we're going to open this up to you guys right now. We're talking about this. Kind of you got the idea, and if you ever watched any of the AfterBuzz shows, some of them are different in the format, but they kind of do a synopsis play-by-play, and we're finding this show is very dense, and some people might not watch it right away. You might want to listen to this before. Right. So we are kind of opening up some ideas. The ladies brought this up last time of how we can make this AfterBuzz show different, and we definitely now we have with the chat open. And we would love, so we're going to open this up. We're going to reach out to some of the stars of the show. We've actually had them respond to us. So you can reach out to Clive, right? And Clive responded back to you saying he's on the East Coast a lot.
Yes, and he said that if he can, that he would totally come in.
And we also had Jennifer Marsala. She reached out through, I think it was Twitter. Someone posted about her, sent it to me and saying, yeah, just reach out to the PR people. So guys, our PR people, we're going to reach out to NBC's.
Yes.
And we were, hopefully, I would love to have every single one of these cast members.
Be amazing.
At one point on our show. I would love to have all of them out here, to any of them. I think it'd be fantastic. So we're definitely going to do that, guys. But we're also going to see, like, what you guys, we want to kind of reach out. You can reach out at us. We'll give you our Twitter names a little bit later.
Yes.
Of ideas that you'd love to see. But we have you reached out now, Brooke? So tell us, like, what do we got?
So first of all, we already have, considering we're only on the 3rd after show, we already have some go-to peeps out there.
Like,
hey, Tanya.
Tanya,
Hey,
we see you in the live chat.
Yes.
We love your fan art. It's amazing.
We love you.
We love you, absolutely. So we've got quite a few awesome people out there that also we need to address something.
What we were addressing.
Oh gosh.
So I was gonna say I'm not great at Twitter, previously to AfterBuzz, I wasn't huge on the Twitter game, but I'm getting there. And I'm really addicted to it now, and I really like it.
Twitter's great.
Twitter is great, and Tanya has pointed out that you are still not on Twitter.
So, Tanya, just for you. So, anyway, Britt _McGowan, McGowan 34. Yes.
There you go.
Oh, so it's
It's official now.
It's official.
Fantastic.
Yes.
High five into
I know.
that.
Wonderful.
See, Tanya,
about it.
It's all because of you.
Literally all because of you. No, literally, totally.
And all of
everybody
you as well.
else. Yeah, we love it.
So anyway, but I kind of reached out just to see, before we take
Some
into
ideas.
effect what we want to do, what do you guys want from the show, and what can we bring that's a little different that you're not getting just by watching the episode?
I find, like, some of the other shows, especially DC Movie News, the more interaction we have with you guys, I think that's more fun. It makes the show go by faster. Synopsis we can do, but if you want, you can get that, other places to do at your leisure so you can enjoy the show. Because we tape right after it airs, so it happens fast for you guys. But if we want to open up to kind of open up the world, so
I reached out on Twitter and I said, what kind of things would you like? And Patricia Thomas tweeted that she wanted to see a shirtless Bryan Mills. And I can't say that I was against that. I was very happy to do some research.
He's an attractive man. Yes, we can say that.
I mean, look at that.
I mean,
that's sultry. That's sultry.
It's sultry, but it's also like, we had talked. So obviously, the actor is Clive Standen,
right?
And he is 35 years old, 3 kids, happily married. Just seemed like a
nice person.
Like a nice,
He did a video. I think it was the premiere of Taken. His wife came out of like a curtain. She's like, "Oh my God, my children have been taken."
Oh my God.
And he comes shoulder rolling in, grabs the stroller. He's like, "Don't worry, I've got this handled, ladies."
I have not seen that.
And then he's real serious, and then he just breaks his smiles, and he's got like 2. I think they're twins, and he like rubs their head, and it's so genuine.
So cool.
And it wasn't cheesy. It was just a guy being a guy, and it was just like really cool. So that's on his Twitter.
So I figured, okay, I can give you Clive Standen shirtless. I can pull photos for days, which we did here. But then it kind of got my gears going, and I was like, well, what if every week, since it is a new show, and a lot of the actors on this show are fairly new,
it's a relatively. It's a seasoned cast, but not that many people would know about. Because it's so interesting when you see these actors, and a lot of them are like, especially like, we had Monique Curran, who was from Dark Knight. You're like, I've seen actors before, but I couldn't figure before. Then you IMDb them, and then you see their credits. So I think that goes for what you're saying here.
And so I was like, well, what if every week we do like an actor spotlight?
Yeah.
Eventually, I'd love to incorporate to where we've got the actual actor on the show.
That would
be amazing. But to start it off, I thought we would focus on the star of our show, who is Clive Standen.
The reason we have the show.
The reason, the Bryan Mills, the shirtless Bryan Mills. So just some cool facts that I found out. So 35, 3 kids. He's got a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So he's a busy man. To be able to be doing all of this.
Totally.
But he said that when they started filming the first episode, his daughter Edie, if I'm saying it correctly, they were filming in Toronto. Yeah. But they were still back in England, and his daughter went on a field trip to Paris, and he was just saying it was a little like too close for comfort.
That's
way too close for comfort, actually.
Consider,
that's part of me. I'm kind of thinking. I was like, man, he's we're close to the same age, and I don't have any kids at all. Like, oh, he's moving, he's got it going. That guy knows what he's doing.
The first thing I think of is what school is she going to? I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, like
right?
go on a field trip to Paris.
What a weird thing to know that you're playing a character that's daughter went to Paris, was kidnapped into a sex trade. Here's your firstborn daughter going away on this trip. It's just like
too much.
That's a little bit of life imitating, art imitating life right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he is, and with this Liam Neeson, Clive Davis parallel, they're actually both from Northern Ireland. Which is
it's really cool.
I'm amazed when actors are from Europe, especially, and they can do American accents.
Perfect.
Us Americans, we really cannot do the foreign accent. They always can pick us apart, like, oh, he's faking it. But
I would
like
never
like Charlie Cox on Daredevil. That guy, you cannot tell he's English. It's
even what's
they're
his name?
so well trained.
Hugh Laurie on House.
Oh gosh, yeah, Hugh Laurie.
I was shocked when I heard his name. I was like, what?
Those guys, they're trained. They're trained. Like you say, in their training there.
Yeah, and so interesting enough, he is. So he actually has like a musical theater background, which I'm a musical theater
dance
girl.
man.
So yeah, jazz hands.
Jazz hands, Bryan Mills.
Are these spirit fingers or these jazz hands? What's the difference?
These are spirit fingers.
Oh yeah, no, these. So what
different movie,
exactly.
different show. But yeah, so he is trained in musical theater. He has starred in some West End shows. So now I want to like go and find some clips of him singing a little dance.
Oh, a song and dance.
But he apparently does all of his own stunts, which I had no idea.
I think that is super cool.
That's amazing. So I mean,
amazing.
He's
really
channeling his inner Bryan Mills.
Yeah.
He's trained in, I can never say this.
Muay Thai.
Muay Thai.
Not Mai Tai, which some, it's a common misconception, some people might call it, but Muay Thai. Muay Thai.
Tumbling and contemporary dance. And
his tumbling came into effect in that video. When he did that shoulder roll, I was like, that's a pretty good shoulder roll.
Yeah,
you look good.
Yeah.
And dance background?
Yeah, contemporary dance background. And, so and then I found this interesting tonight when he was like disassembling his sniper rifle.
Yes.
Yeah, he apparently can disassemble and reassemble an M16 rifle in under a minute.
Crazy. I mean, is that not a perfect cast? I mean, he literally is a perfect cast for this.
You always can tell in films when people either have been trained prior or they do have it. Because there are times when you watch actors and you're like, oh, that guy doesn't know how to throw a punch, and they're not taking the time to train him to look at like Bryan in his scenes. And what I love so far, I mean, I would have liked to see a little more hand-to-hand combat. We had like the one scene with the three men in the mosque there. But it's done very subtle, very kind of real.
I believe it.
Yeah, you believe it. It's like, okay, that looked good.
Yeah,
he definitely looks like he can take care of himself.
So on this live chat, we've got some funny things going. Somebody says, do a musical theater episode. Instead of fist fights, it's a dance duel.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Jet for that.
So I think, look at our time. I think we got to wrap it up here. But I think that brings us to a great area, this whole area. So again, we open up to you guys out there in the chat. Tweet out to us, reach out to us if you've got ideas.
Several requests on here that they want Mike, please open the chat in your MacGyver podcast.
Okay.
Do that. He said, okay.
We will do that.
Maybe we'll even get on the live chat and torment you a bit.
Oh gosh! All right, sounds great. Yes. But that brings us to another episode of Taken, which I think we all agree we love the show.
Love it.
It's hitting on all the cylinders that we want it to. But yeah, so I guess I had a great time tonight again.
Yeah,
but ladies, let's take us out there. Brittany, if you wanna put yourself over.
Yes, my name is Brittany McGowan, and for my Twitter,
there you go.
You can do Brit_McGowan34.
Wonderful, and thank you guys for joining us. You can find me on all social media at Brooke Lacey H.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Kalinowski. Find me at Mike Kalinowski. I'm here with MacGyver. I'll get that chat roll open up there. DC Movie News, DC Character Corner here. And again, reach out to us, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. If you like what you see, guys, make sure to give us those 5-star ratings, the thumbs up on iTunes. We're over there. If you want to see more of this. And again, now reach out to us. We love to hear your feedback, what you guys want to see on the show. But until then, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.